Good evening, everybody. We are live streaming, so no napping in the seats. You're on camera. You're on candid camera. My name is Nancy Moore. I'm an alder here in Monona. I'm also chair of the Sustainability Committee, and I just wanted to welcome you all and thank you all for being here. It's a double header here tonight in Monona with the concert being canceled last night, so you can go from this beautiful presentation right out into the sun and enjoy some great music outside. But I thank you all for coming to learn more about solar for your home or business. Before we start, I just want to point out a couple of things that you may or may not know. First of all, I hope most of you know that Monona back in late March passed 100% clean energy and resiliency resolution for the city. So, and we not only in that resolution have certainly substantial goals for the city itself, but we do for the whole community. So you can be a part of that. And getting to 100% clean energy is really a two-part process, which is to say that it involves not only renewable energy, but energy efficiency. So the priority really for all of us is to make sure that our homes are good and tight and efficient before we slap solar on them, so that we don't need quite as much renewable energy to operate our homes. So it is a two-prong approach, and it's really important that we're tackling both, which we are doing at the city level. We've made a lot of progress in that regard, and we'll continue to do. And again, we thank you all for being here. With that, I'm going to turn the table over to Heather Allen from Renew Wisconsin, who's going to walk you through this terrific Madisun program. And we want to thank Renew again for being such great partners in this process, and thank you all again for coming.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you to the City of Monona. I am Heather Allen from Renew Wisconsin, and I actually like to point out a few people here. I'm not alone in this work. Anthony is one of our volunteers. He's helping out. Let us know if you want to be a volunteer with Renew. And then the two beautiful women in the back there, Brianna and Sophia, are our Madisun Community Outreach interns. If you don't have literature in front of you already, or you haven't signed up for our I'm interested list, stop and talk to them. So I'm just going to jump in. It's a beautiful night, and so I want to get through all the information and all the questions as quick as we reasonably can. But if you need to reach me, you can reach me at heather@renewwisconsin.org if you have any questions after this presentation. So Madisun is a residential group buy program for homeowners, and anyone in the Madison region can qualify for this program. So it's not limited to the City of Madison limits. City of Monona qualifies if you're a homeowner here. The City of Madison also provides business rebates and nonprofit rebates. That's brand new this year, but those are limited to the city. But if you know people who have a business or a nonprofit in the City of Madison that want to go solar, let us know about that. So the first question we always get is, can solar work in Wisconsin? And yes, the answer is yes. And the reason we want to give you an emphatic yes is that what you're seeing here is a solar irradiance chart. And the colors, they get warmer as you get more solar irradiance, right? So obviously the southwest United States is has a lot of sun hitting it, and Wisconsin has a middle amount of sun hitting it, and Germany has much less. But they've been able to take that sun and generate about 7% of their power from solar energy. 35% of their power is renewable. Wisconsin has about less than 0.2% of our energy comes from solar at this point. Although there have been major advancements just in the last 2 months as major solar projects have been improved, our numbers will continue to go up and up. But the point is here, there's a lot of room for growth for solar in Wisconsin because we have a lot of solar power shining down on us. The other myth that we hear sometimes is that solar is too expensive, and we would disagree vehemently because as the costs have dropped 88% in the last 10 years, the number of installations have grown exponentially. So this is doable, and it's doable because the costs are down. We also hear that solar is unreliable. But actually, I just conducted an interview with a professor from the University of Wisconsin just this morning. He has a new book out called Why Solar Energy Became Cheap. His name is Greg Nemeth. Check out the book. And one of the very first uses of solar power was in the 60s and 70s with the space program. NASA used solar power because it was the most efficient and reliable system they could depend on, and still use it today. Most of the panels that you'll see on the marketplace come with a 25-year manufacturer's warranty. Oftentimes panels last longer than 25 years. We've had people anecdotally tell us they have panels lasting 30, 35 years. This is a dynamic slide that proves that solar panels can handle golf ball size hail. Installations can withstand winds up to 140 miles per hour. And the panels themselves, they melt snow, and the roof angle causes the snow to slide off. So in most scenarios, your snow is going to melt within a day or two, and or it's going to slide off at the same time, because the panels, they're black, they warm up, and they as they heat up, the snow melts just enough to slide all off of the panel. So you do not have to clean your panels. We get that question sometimes. We don't recommend it. So why install solar? There's so many reasons. Everyone here is probably motivated by different reasons today. But what we hear quite often is that it saves money, that it helps you hedge against rising utility bills. Utility bills do continue to rise, and that is something that people want to plan for and protect themselves against. It increases resiliency of your grid. So you're adding safety and reliability to the grid just by putting solar on your home, because you're creating more distributed electricity generation. Of course, it reduces emissions caused by fossil fuels, both air and water emissions. So that's wonderful. It helps you get your community closer to the net zero energy goal. And yeah, it's really great. This is a picture of a friend of mine who's put solar on their cabin up in Bayfield. So if it can be done in Bayfield, it can be done here in Monona. We often hear questions about the value of solar on a home. Does it reduce the value of the home, or does it make it difficult to sell a home? The answers to that are that homes sell faster, and they sell often for more money. This is a study conducted by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. So it should dispel any myths that it would be difficult to sell a home or lower the value of your home. And while you're making an improvement to your home that increases the value of your home, it is by state law not allowed to increase the assessed value of your home. So you do not pay additional property taxes on the value of the solar panels, but you should be able to sell at a competitive or even better price. And solar, along with energy efficiency and wind manufacturing jobs and wind operator mechanics, is one of the fastest growing sectors in the economy. The clean energy jobs in Wisconsin account for over 75,000 jobs, and it includes, it is more than all the waiters, waitresses, computer programmers, and lawyers in Wisconsin are in clean energy. That includes energy efficiency. This is a really fast growing industry, so you're supporting your local economy. Actually, while we talk about the local economy, one thing that you should think about too is that Wisconsin doesn't have any coal or gas or oil really for us to burn here for heat or electricity. So every dollar we spend on those inputs goes out of state. It's about $14 billion a year that Wisconsinites send out of state just to buy fossil fuels. So if you're generating your own electricity, or your community energy company is investing in renewable energy, all of that money stays circulating in the economy. And imagine what an additional $14 billion circling within the state of Wisconsin would do. Okay, so as I mentioned, there are health benefits and environmental benefits. A 25-year average size array would prevent 119 tons of carbon dioxide from entering the atmosphere, offset over 200,000 miles of driving, and keep 114,000 pounds of coal in the ground. That's pretty impressive for your solar array. And that really is an average size. I have a 4.8 kilowatt size house, and I was just talking to an expert here. I think that's called a micro home, right? So your average size array will accomplish great things for your community. So why go solar? It works. You can produce your own electricity, increase your home value, create a healthy environment, and create homegrown jobs. And save money. It's a win-win-win-win-win. So how does solar work? There's two main components to a solar system, your panels and your inverter. Everyone's familiar with what panels look like when they're on a rooftop. Those simply convert sunlight into electricity. There's no moving parts. They're about the size of a door frame. And they're warranted for 25 years. The inverter is a much more complicated piece of equipment that converts the DC electricity to AC electricity. Those are often warranted for 10 years. They can last longer than that, but that would be the first piece of equipment you would need to replace. Your inverter can tell you how much energy you're generating and how much energy you're putting back onto the grid versus using in your home. So a lot of people who are really interested in this stuff, they have applications on their phone, and they come up to me after a presentation, look how much energy I saved while you were talking. It's very exciting. You can get really into the details and watch moment by moment if you're interested in that. You do not have to if you don't want the details. This is just an estimate of what two very frequently used size panels are. So when you're looking at your household or any building really, and it's a grid connected system, and by that we mean you are able to get electricity from the grid and give it back to the grid if you like. You have your solar panels generating electricity. That energy moves to the inverter where it is converted to AC electricity. It moves through the disconnect switch into your electrical panel, and then it starts to feed power into your appliances and your lights. And anything that's not used in real time in your home goes back through your meter and out along the transmission lines, distribution lines to your neighbors, and eventually back to the grid. And then you get credit for those kilowatt hours that you're producing but you're not using. And that credit policy or that system is called net metering. So extra electricity you produce is credited to your bill. Different utilities have different policies for net metering. Can I see a show of hands? How many people here are MG&E? Most people, I'm thinking. Yeah, okay. So MG&E has an annual net metering. That means they balance things out for the year, and as long as you don't exceed 100 kilowatts of overproduction, you get full credit for every kilowatt you produce. This is more in the weeds than you need to know. Alliant has a tighter net metering policy. It's evaluated on a monthly basis, and it's a 20 kilowatt cap. So if you're interested in that, let me know. So how can I tell if my home is good for solar? In general, the ideal system is a south-facing roof or location. It could be a ground-mounted system. East and west arrays are now common, and they qualify for focus on energy rebates. The more directly facing south your system is, the better it is. It'll be more efficient, and it will get more credits from focus on energy. An unshaded roof or a very lightly shaded roof is ideal. A structurally sound roof is important because I would hopefully not want to do any roof repairs once you install the solar system. It'd be better to install the system after you have made sure your roof is in good shape. And as Nancy mentioned, you want to make sure your home is energy efficient, and that way you will be maximizing the savings and the environmental benefits of your endeavor. This is our actual installers doing an actual installation. I'm trying to see if I recognize any of these particular projects. So you see them on all types of rooftops and all types of orientations. So you can see how even if you have a complicated roof structure with multiple ridges and peaks, even at different levels, your solar installers can figure out what combination of placements will work nicely for your system. And they're very creative. So the benefit of working with us with the group buy is that we have already gone through the process of issuing a formal request for proposals to local solar installers. We have, through a community selected panel of experts, reviewed those proposals and selected the 2 contractors who will serve this program. They are reputable contractors that we have worked with for going on 4 years now, and they are giving you an amazing deal. So the price points are 2.95 per watt for American panels. It's slightly cheaper for imported panels, and there is a 5% discount for going with Madisun. In addition, Sophia, if you raise your hand, the great thing about going through Madisun is that this may very likely be who you talk to. So once you sign up with us, you're going to get, I'm probably jumping ahead on the slides here, but you're going to get a phone call, and Sophia's going to look at your house from satellite imagery and talk you through whether it's a good fit for your house and answer any questions you have. And we will provide any information you need at any length, with no obligation to you to buy. We're not the installers. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're a nonprofit educational and informational organization. So we're here to make this easy. Really, that's what we're here for. And we have worked with the installers to make it simple. I myself have solar. I got it in 2016 through the Madisun program. I had no affiliation with this program at the time, but I knew that Madisun did all the hard work. You don't have to get quotes from different contractors. You don't have to check references. They tell you the price. It's a fair price. They do the deal. I was remodeling my entire house at the time, and this was the absolute smoothest part of my contracting experience. So one of your financial incentives is the Focus on Energy rebate. They provide a rebate, a check you would get in the mail of up to 12% of the total project cost. If it's slightly shaded, it's a reduced amount of a rebate. So south arrays, as I mentioned, get the full rebate up to $2,000. East or west arrays will receive a slightly smaller incentive of up to $1,500. And in rural areas, more money is available. So if you live a little bit further out, you may qualify for more rebates. And this is why we're so popular right now. The federal tax credits are dropping. They'll drop 4% a year for the next couple of years. Right now, 2019 is the very last year to get your 30% tax credit. Your project does not have to be completed in 2019, but it does have to be contracted and a deposit has to be made. You want to verify all of those details with your solar installer, but you can absolutely qualify for the credit if you get started on the process in the very near future. So we'll just walk through an average 5 kilowatt system. Some estimates say that in our area, you might get quoted around $14,750 for a project like this. This might be slightly different than the cost per watt we have negotiated with this project, but I think it's very close. If you got your Focus on Energy incentive, it would reduce the cost of the project about nearly $1,800 or $1,770. Your federal tax credit accounts for another nearly $3,900 in reduced out-of-pocket costs. And when all is said and done, your total project cost is actually $9,000. So the price that the installer gives you is really the first step, but your project cost will go down at least 30% when you look at your rebates and your tax credits. Okay, so I think this is a little bit of information about how much you will save in each year depending on who your utility is. With Madisun Gas and Electric, I can say because their residential rates are slightly higher than Alliant and because they have a better, more favorable to the customer net metering rate, it is a significant payback. And the payback is a little bit faster than if you were in Alliant Energy territory. And all across Wisconsin, all the utilities have different net metering policies. So we're fortunate that the MG&E policy really incentivizes solar.
So based on your example, it'll be a 7-year payback period?
Yeah, and that's reasonable based on my own personal experience, yeah. No, net metering is an automatic policy.
You have to buy a new meter.
No. You don't have to buy a new meter. You may be thinking of time of use rates, which would be different, but we can talk about that offline. No, net metering is simply, it's a policy that is implemented once you have gone solar. You don't have to pay MG&E anything in addition to what you are paying for the solar installation. You do have to get insurance on the solar installation, or your home has to be insured sufficiently for the solar installation.
If we still have the spinning disc meter, will that work?
Yeah.
And will it
Yeah.
spin back?
I don't think they physically spin backwards, but your bill spins backwards, metaphorically. Yes, sir.
Who determines whether your roof looks good enough with regard to shingling?
Your installer can help you determine that.
Installers do that.
They can do that, or you can have.
This really works best if you've had a new shingling job done recently or something.
I would say it's clear cut if it's within the last 5 years that you've had a new roof. If not, I would have it inspected or ask your solar installer to tell you if they'd recommend any roof repairs. Yeah, you do want to have your roof in a good shape. It is possible, if there are any problems with your roof after the system is installed, it is possible to remove all of the equipment, do roof repairs, and put all of the equipment back on, but you're basically paying for a removal and an installation of solar. And those are the most expensive parts of the project, is the labor. Okay, so we just mentioned time of use rates. Who knows what time of use rates are? Ooh, okay. So time of use is your utility charges you a different rate depending on when you use electricity, if and only if you sign up for the time of use rate system. So I didn't know about the time of use rate system until I was probably 6 months on the job at Renew, and I contacted MG&E and I signed up for time of use, and now I save even more each month in addition to the amount I was saving on solar, because when I'm generating electricity during the daytime hours with my solar panels, that's when the cost of energy is highest to MG&E. So they charge customers that are on time of use rates more money for each kilowatt hour. But on the weekends and the evenings, and in fact every holiday, the cost of energy is reduced. And so I try to, dry my clothes on the weekend, or run whatever needs to be run on the weekend or the evening. And as a result, So I've been on time of use maybe 6 months, and as a result, I save between $1 and $16 every month, in addition to what I'm saving by going solar. So it's some months it's not that much, but one month I saved $15, which was like a good quarter of my bill. So that's huge. So time of use rates make solar better because you're generating power when it's most expensive and feeding it back into the grid. And if you can time your usage so that you're using power when it's less expensive, you save even more money. Oops. Okay, so over the lifetime of your panels, after you've reached your payback period, you could expect to save about $20,000 over the whole project life. So that's really exciting, because once you've paid back the system in reduced electricity bills, you are just going to be saving money every year, especially as the costs of utility service go up and the cost per kilowatt hour from your utility go up. You've already paid for that electricity that you receive and generate every day. So over the ownership of your life, it's a great deal. Or the ownership of your home, solar panel lifespan. So let's talk about next steps. So if you've signed up on our paper sheet here, we are going to put you in to our computer system in the I'm interested category. If you have not signed up, please go to our website, www.madisunsolar.com, MADISUN, solar.com, and just click I'm interested and let us know what you need. You'll receive a phone call from Sophia, very likely. Wave again, Sophia. Thank you. She's going to discuss with you your home energy usage and pre-assess your home or your property with satellite imagery. She can estimate the size of the system, the costs and the rebates, make recommendations, and then help you schedule your first site assessment with the solar installer themselves. They will physically come out to the project site. So the solar installer comes out, looks at the roof, evaluates if it's in good enough condition, looks at your electrical panel and your solar potential. Is your roof shaded? Is the roof arranged, oriented in a way that it's going to be productive? And then about 2 weeks after you do your site assessment, if your home is a good candidate and you'd like to go forward, the solar installer will send you a proposal with the exact specifications of their proposal, how they would lay it out on your rooftop, and the cost, including all the rebates that you would qualify for. And then if you think that looks good, you would receive a contract. You could sign that and then return it to your solar installer, and then eventually schedule your installation and get it installed. So I went through that extremely quickly because I wanted to leave most of our time for questions. I'm just going to open it up. Are there any questions?
Yes, can you turn back to that last slide so I can take a picture of it?
There you go. My pleasure. And this is being live streamed on all the Monona community media venues, so you could watch this again if you like. Yes, ma'am.
I'm assuming that the contract, and if you decide to go ahead, is it all upfront money? Pay right away?
There's a deposit,
Okay.
but it's not the full cost of the system. I believe there's two parts. Sophia, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a deposit, and then upon installation, you finish paying for the system.
There is only the 5% down payment by the December 31st. As long as you pay it by that time, you're all set to go.
Yeah, that's to be able to access the 2019 tax credits. You have to have a deposit and contract in place, right? But you don't need all the cash up front at the very beginning of the signing.
The other quick question, new construction, can you assess the site? I mean, but we don't have past usage on a new construction, so I don't know how you handle that.
I think I would simply talk with your solar installer. They can probably estimate from the size of the building, the HVAC system, what type of lighting is in there. It's not as easy. It's not as specific. It's not as accurate, rather, I should say. But they can give you a ballpark. And new construction is very easy for them to work with, rather than, a home like mine, which has 100 years of handyman remodeling that makes electrical very confusing. So yeah. So the city of Monona has a financing program for renewable energy projects and energy efficiency projects called Renew Monona, which has a great interest rate. So go to mymonona.com and look for Renew Monona as a financing option. I should also mention that oftentimes homeowners use a HELOC loan if they decide to go that way. And there are specific clean energy financing organizations like the Clean Energy Credit Union, which has an interest rate for these types of projects at about 5%, which clearly my Monona is beating by a long shot, but that's another option. Yes, ma'am.
I think I heard you say that you have to replace the inverter about every 10 years?
It's warranted for 10 years. We think maybe every 12 years we may need to replace that.
And roughly what do they cost?
Those are a couple $1,000s, but I would have to get back to you on the exact amount.
So it's not a minor.
That is not a minor. That's a significant piece of equipment. Yeah. But your installer could tell you exactly how much the type of inverter they're proposing would cost. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
How do you determine who's two contractors, which contractors?
Oh, in general, we just, one of our contractors is significantly larger. So if Sophia gets 5 contracts or 5 assessments proposed in one day, the first 4 go to Full Spectrum and the next one goes to Midwest Solar, because we have that's the ratio. But let us know if you have a strong preference and we can make things work.
What are the two names?
The 2 companies, and they should be on our brochures, I think somewhere, is Full Spectrum Solar and Midwest Solar. Yes, go ahead.
Generally speaking, I mean, I know you gave us some estimates, but usually can your whole house run off of this? I mean, how much are we still going to be drawing from the grid?
So my electricity bill is reduced by half. And that includes, I'm probably producing half of what I need to operate the home. Because of these net metering policies, financially, unless you want to go completely off grid, you don't want to size your system to be too big, because then you won't get all the credits for the payback. So your solar installer is very adept at figuring out how to maximize your financial benefit over time. So you want to size the system so that it's not too large to meet too many of your energy needs, because if it does, the utility won't pay you back at the same rate. So most of these systems, I would think, cover 50% or a little bit less of your energy usage.
And then what if the power goes out or something? Is a certain amount stored in your?
This is truly my favorite question. So I got my solar installed, and I looked at Burke. He's the owner of Midwest Solar, and he was actually himself doing the project. And I was like, so this is great. So when the power goes out, all my neighbors can come to my house and charge their cell phones. We're gonna be the most resilient neighborhood in the community. He was like, nope, no, that is unfortunately not true. In order to be able to generate power while you're disconnected from the grid, or while the grid is down, you have to be able to disconnect from the grid. And a solar system alone will not let you do that, because you have to have a battery system as well. Part of that is utility regulations, and part of it is just technological issues. But what happens is when there's a brownout or a blackout, the utility shuts down the whole entire area, so that when they have people going to work on the lines, there's no electricity current running into homes or out of homes, because the utility workers would be in danger. So they shut everything down. And so if you wanted your system to operate during that time, you'd have to have a battery system, so that you could completely those battery systems have disconnects that you can operate, that disconnect you from the grid, and then you can generate power, store power, generate power, store power. But that would add oftentimes about double to the cost of your system to do a battery. So yes, I wish that simply installing solar meant you could function when the grid is down, but unless you do a battery for practical purposes, that's very difficult. I don't know if you're planning to run any conduit at that time, if you're planning to do any electrical along with the roof. You are. So yes, if you can consolidate all your conduit in one place, that makes solar installations easier, and that may already be true for residential property. You may want to think about whether or not you want to do electric vehicles, because that may, if you want to do an electric vehicle charger, that may influence how some of the things are arranged with your roof and your electrical system. So I would explore some of those possibilities with your solar installer before you get the roof done, just so you can kind of make sure it all makes sense. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to be thinking in advance. You're based in Rock County? So this particular program, Madisun, may not apply to you. It depends on, the solar installers are sort of only through the contract doing this in the Madisun area generally. If you're further out than that, they may still do they may be willing to do the system, but they may charge a travel fee for coming out. But your focus on energy credit would be higher if you're applying from a rural area in Rock County. And yeah, the Madisun program may not be the exact right fit, but there are certainly solar installers who will work with you, and your focus on energy credit would be very beneficial. So we're at a point in time where solar, I could pull up another slide for you. Actually, I'll do that. We're at a point in time where solar and wind are cheaper. Solar and wind new projects are cheaper than new coal projects. And so everything's changing for utilities. And we're just in a moment of radical change, which is exciting, but also difficult for an industry that's been doing quite well for a long time. I'm going to show you this slide really quick. It's kind of a fun one. So if you can see this, now this is not for residential projects. These are for large scale projects, but you can see just in the last 10 years, solar has dropped from being by 3 times more the most expensive way to generate electricity to less than half of what it costs to generate electricity through new coal plants. So you see today, or in 2018, new coal, new solar, and new wind were about 4.2 cents a kilowatt hour, and new solar was 4.3 cents a kilowatt hour. Coal at the same moment in time was 10.2 cents a kilowatt hour. This means that everything changes, right? It changes for the utilities, not just when residents and businesses are putting solar on properties, but when they're thinking about what does my new power plant look like, maybe it's a solar farm, because that's most cost effective both for the utility and for the customer. So everything's changing. So the policies are all in flux. There's many new proposals. MG&E and Alliant are proposing new community solar projects. So if you can't put solar on your rooftop, you can put it on a community solar project and buy into that to access clean energy. So I think the only thing we can predict about energy going forward is that everything's going to change, and so businesses that have relied on an existing business model, they really have to adapt and look at new models for how they structure their business, because you just don't see this in every industry. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, when the power company buys your electricity from you, are they paying wholesale or retail?
So the net metering, you're going to get the retail rate, but that's up to a point. And then you get a wholesale rate. Yeah. Okay. I think we're doing pretty good here. I might just make myself available to answer questions offsides, but also my colleagues can answer questions too. So feel free to pepper us with questions. And thank you once again to the City of Monona, to the Sustainability Committee, another representative, Teresa Redemacher's here, and for going renewable and supporting your community going renewable. We're really grateful that you showed up on a beautifully sunny evening. Okay, thank you.